Guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chlo. If you're new here, I am excited that you're here, especially for this video today. So hold on one second. I'm going to tell you what the video is about, but let me just share with you something that I think is a really beautiful aspect of my work. So I work with girls who have eating disorders or disordered eating, or they're stuck in energy debt, they lost their period, one of those, or someone who's dealing with exercise addiction. And something, that I get to see in my life every single day, literally every single day. I wake up to messages, to emails, to voice notes, to, meeting with clients and meeting with the girls in my signature course, Get Your Flow On. I'm exposed to daily the beautiful transformations that happen on this whole journey of recovery. I'm exposed to the first moments of feeling really free at a family dinner. I am constantly seeing the first periods come and hearing in detail everything about that. And that's all good and all, and I love that. But I'm thinking to myself here, other people need to see this. I am so sure about recovery and everyone getting to a good spot because I see it every day. Every single day, people are getting to a better spot. Every single day, people are radically transforming their whole relationship with food. I see it. And so when I say this recovery stuff, it's like I have the backing of 600 plus women behind me of they're the ones who have recovered, who have proved to me, time and time and time again of yes, this is possible. Not to mention my own recovery proved to myself that it's possible. But I wanted to bring Ivy onto the show today. Because Ivy is someone who joined the Get Your Flow On course, and she was one of those who she absorbed it all. She had this beautiful, amazing transformation. She's still on her journey, on her path, but she's in a really amazing, beautiful, more stable place right now. And hearing the excitement in her voice messages that she was sending me on Instagram of her recovery and everything that's been going on, I was like, darling, we got to get you saying this in front of a bigger audience. So this is the audience for it, right? If you are someone who doesn't believe that this is possible, watch this video and just kind of absorb the energy from Ivy of her recent transformation that she's had into a life of freedom and better health. So that's all I just wanted to say as I kind of preface this podcast video that's going on between Ivy, a Get Your Flow On course member, and of course me. So that is it. Make sure you make sure you subscribe, and let's dive into the juicy content for today. I am inviting Ivy to the podcast today. I'm really excited to finally get to meet with Ivy face to face. Ivy joined the Get Your Flow On course a couple months ago. Yeah, correct?
Maybe two.
Yeah, two. Okay, great. Ivy joined the course, you guys, 2 months ago, and this is going to be a little just what's that testimonial to how much work in the course in such a short amount of time. Ivy was just telling me before this podcast, she's so much has changed in a very, very, very small amount of time. And I'm yes, that's the type of space I like to hold for people, the type of community I like to build, where it's we can now push what would have taken years into, we condense that down into months, or we take what would have taken months and we condense it down into days. And that's kind of my purpose of mentorship and coaching is let me tell you everything that took me 11 plus years to figure out in life. Ivy, I'm excited to hear what it is that you really figured out in this whole journey, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes. So I would love to just get a brief background into where were you before this, and what have you been through? Because I know a lot of the girls love feeling connected. We're not the only ones who do these things. And if all these other people can recover, it kind of gives us hope of better too. So let's take it back to the first time you remember feeling uncomfortable in your body or uncomfortable around food.
Yeah, so I remember when I was really little, I grew up very skinny, very small, and as I got older, I'm a naturally tall girl, so I'm bound to get some womanly curves, be a little more
voluptuous.
Yeah, exactly. And as I went through puberty, and I used to not think about food in that way at all. And once that happened, I was shoot, I'm actually gaining a little bit of weight here, which is completely normal. But in my brain, I had like a lot of like shorter friends who were still like pretty like naturally petite and everything, and that just wasn't me. And I was like I'm not really feeling like too comfortable with this. Like I'm used to like eating whatever I want and being like a stick. And now that I'm like actually developing, it wasn't something I was used to. And so like since then I started to feel like just not very comfortable in my own body, and I started kind of becoming conscious what I ate. And a lot of the time, especially like when COVID hit, I feel like that was like a period for everybody when like things got like, but I would like scroll on TikTok and like see all these things about like calories and exercise. And I was like, oh, like maybe I can get back into my smaller body if I conform.
Yeah, which can I pause here for a second because I think that you're really hitting on first off a story that is so similar. Like if you're listening to this, like drop down in the comment section below, like is this something that you are very familiar with? This whole story of like I was, this tiny little girl and then I come into puberty and obviously my body size changes. And I just like look at this kind of transition period that we have, which is quite a large transition. Like when you start developing hormones, a lot of things change. And unfortunately, I just don't feel like young girls, 11 to, 15, 16, whatever. I don't feel like that age group has enough mentorship and enough like strong, powerful women around them that are like, let's talk about periods. Let's talk about your body. Let's talk about sexuality. Let's talk about pleasure. Let's talk about all these things. And I'm not saying to tell your 11-year-old to go and have sex. I'm saying help them understand this world a little bit better. Don't make them feel like they should be ashamed of their body. You can help hold something in, being sacred and something for the right time, but still like explain it to someone instead of being like, nope, don't talk about that. Orgasming, don't talk about that. I'm like, or they should understand that their body is a source of pleasure. Like,
Right.
and
Yeah.
maybe that would be a little bit different. And maybe if enough of us have these positive kind of mentors, like womanly mentors in our life, we wouldn't have gotten to this stage and freaked out and wanted to revert back to how we were when we were 8 years old. It's very much I don't know how to step into this because it's powerful to have hormones. We feel a lot as women, and I understand that would be like a whoa, this isn't what I'm used to. Let me go back.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. And I just remember everyone, like all of my friends would get their periods, and I was a late bloomer to begin with anyway, so I didn't get my first period until I was like almost 14. And then after that, I was like, "Oh, like it'll regulate." And that was like the same time that I kind of started to like restrict a little bit. And then like I like never would get it back, and I'd like go to my doctors and I'd be like, "Guys, like what's up? Like, why am I not getting my period?"
And what would they tell you?
Well, the first couple of years, like I kind of was like on board with them. They were like, "Oh, like it's normal. Like it takes like a couple years for your period to regulate when you get it." And I was like, "Oh, okay," but I just knew
Yeah,
in the
but
back
you
of
weren't
my
even
mind.
having a period.
Yeah,
That's the
I
thing.
know.
Like your
That's
cycles
yeah,
were
exactly. Like it
off.
wasn't even yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. And like my mom was like, Ivy, like the doctors say it's fine, like don't worry about it. And I was like, I just know something's up. And then like years later, I think I was like 15, like going to my junior year of high school, like I went to a doctor and they put me on birth control, you know, the usual prescription. Which they were just hoping to kickstart my period. They were like, and the funny thing is, they kind of did tell me, they were like, "Oh, like if you put on a little bit of weight, that could definitely help. But if you're naturally skinny like that, sometimes you are more like predisposed to have irregular periods. But if you get on birth control, maybe you can kickstart it." So I tried that and I did it for 3 months. And I mean, I got a fake bleed, but then I went off it and it was like
Yeah.
back to square
So
one.
Let
Yeah.
me explain this real quick for the listeners, because I think this is, again, it's like we don't have these mentors in our life like teaching us this. And as a like 14, 15-year-old who goes into the gynecologist to get support and help and is told something, it's like, why would we question that? Like, of
Right.
course, they're a doctor, they're trained, like, I'm not going to question them saying I should go on birth control to start my period. So let's just be clear here in what's happening. Birth control is literally designed to be exactly that, birth
Mhm.
control. How it does that is it stops the hypothalamus from sending signals to the pituitary gland to start, sending out luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, all those hormones we need to like grow our egg and then to release it. And then what happens is if a sperm meets it, we get pregnant. If it doesn't, then it doesn't implant and we shed the lining, right?
Mhm.
And so it's literally meant to stop ovulation. The only reason why we have a period is ovulation. Like
Mhm.
ovulation really is the thing that we should be talking about. Like you are an anovulatory person, not someone with amenorrhea. Like you are someone like who's just not ovulating.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the idea of let me take birth control, something that is going to block the communication between my hypothalamus and my ovaries to help me get a period. It's just like, does that make sense?
Yeah. No.
And so I hope like people listening understand that that's not a real period, like
Yeah.
correctly found out. It's not a real period and it just makes you think that things are getting better. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I feel like for so long, I was just like in like complete denial that I had hypothalamic amenorrhea. Like the whole time I was like, what is it? Like I'm not even that skinny. I don't exercise that much, but like now like being where I'm at now, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like I would literally like read the symptoms like that all apply to me and I'm just like, no, like I don't have that, like, like, you
Yeah,
know?
and it's funny that question or that statement, I should say, of like, I'm not to this. I
Mhm.
don't exercise too much. I'm like, yeah, but your body's clearly showing that for you it is too much, right? And we, I think, again, we're kind of used to looking at numbers and like, oh, this is a healthy baseline for estrogen. I'm like, maybe not for you. Because I know a lot of girls who come to me and they're like, hair's falling out, I have insomnia,
Mhm.
fertile, I can't get pregnant, all of that. And then they go, but my blood work turns out normal. I'm like, okay, well, obviously those numbers aren't normal for you. They're not your average. And we got to find out where your body lands. So same thing there of like, okay, you might not have felt like it's too much, which was probably influenced by society's view of what too much is,
Yeah.
which yeah. But taking a step back and being like, it obviously is too much though.
Mhm.
Like, so how can I simply just look at this from a non-judgmental perspective of just looking at it of like, here's the facts. I've been exercising this much, I've been eating this type of food, and I don't have a period. Like, no
Mhm.
judgment, just understand that that is like, that's it. Like,
Right.
going on. And so no matter how many articles you read saying that the diet that you are eating is healthy and supportive for you, it's not. And coming up to or coming to a place of acceptance of that is really helpful and important.
Right. And I genuinely thought like when I would like go to restaurants and like get like the salad with chicken and stuff, I'd be like, I genuinely like crave that. Like that's what I want. But now like after like going through all of this, I'm like, I don't even like want that anymore. Like it's like
Mhm.
totally different, you know? And like even at the beginning when I would message you and be like, is it okay if I go to the gym like a couple times? Like, please, I really like it. And now it's like cutting out, like I'm fine. I've done so much else with my life. Like life goes on without the gym, like, you know?
So can you explain that process of finally coming to that place of understanding like, yeah, I am gonna have to take some time off? That
Mhm.
message that you just said, like that gets sent to me probably like 50 times a day of like,
Mhm.
okay, though, if I like do this and do that and still go to the gym and still do my Pilates classes, and I'm always just like, why? Like,
Yeah,
why
like
why
what?
are
Yeah.
you opposed to just taking it off completely? Um, so can you explain this like process?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that question that you just asked itself, like I was like, why am I doing this? And like, um, I really wanted to just give recovery my all. And I was just thinking like if I devote these 4 months, just like 4 months, and I give it my all to cut out exercise, eat what I need to be eating, and just see like if that's successful, you know what I mean? Like I know my body needs rest, I know my body needs recovery, and just I feel like the main thing that like switched was just like doing it. Like you just have to like it's like ripping the band-aid off. Like you just have to commit and say this is what I'm doing. You can't just be like iffy about it. Like you just have to go for it. And it honestly worked out for me at a good time because I was just starting school. So like not going to the gym has given me a lot of more time to like work on my homework and hang out with friends. So I just feel like thinking of all the other stuff you have to do in life and just like I said, ripping off the band-aid and just saying this is what I'm doing and committing to it is what I would say.
That literally is key though. If
Mhm.
people play this game of like, well, I'm gonna just slightly reduce and like,
Mhm.
cool. So what you're doing is you're waking up every single morning and you're asking yourself this big question of, is today the day that I'm allowed to go to the gym?
Right, right.
And it is just so much energy going through that question every single day instead of just waking up and just being like, I'm not going to the gym. I've already like come to that place of just understanding. And now I can focus on strengthening the other areas of
Mhm.
my life. Um, there was something that I was gonna say here. I like wrote it down, and of course now I'm like I can't read my writing.
Yeah.
Oh yes, this is what I was gonna say. Um, I think for me, what it came down to was I was like, okay, here I am in this place of like, I want my period back. I can eat more. I started eating more, right? And then I wasn't wanting to touch the exercise because I was like, well, let's just
Yeah,
see if
that's
like
what
eating
happened, yeah.
more is going to be the thing that gets my period back. And so many girls, again, to the question of like, well, can I do this? Can I do that? I'm like, listen, sure, maybe you'll get your period back by still going to the gym 2 times a week. I'm not sure. Every single body is different. But what I can tell you with absolute certainty is that if you completely take it out, you will. So it's like
Mhm.
you're playing this game of roulette, right? It's like, sure, okay, keep the exercise in, but that's not a surety in any way, shape, or form that you'll get your period back. In fact, there's a very high percentage that you will not be able to get your period back. But there is a surety in taking exercise completely off.
Right.
So it's
Mhm.
like, yeah, that question needs to be reformed,
Yeah.
right? We need to
And
stop.
like I don't know what I was so scared of. Like I was just like, oh, if I stop going to the gym, like I'll get like super fat and look super untoned. And it's like now I haven't gone in like over a month and it's like I'm happy with my body. Like it's fine, you know?
So before this podcast, Ivy brought up the question of like, is this too early for me to share my story? Because
Mhm.
you were so new into recovery. And what you just said right there of like, it's been just like a month and a half or whatever of you doing this. And
Mhm.
then to hear you follow up by saying, and I am happy with this decision, and I've been feeling good, and like everything's fine, right? Is like, yes, that is what other people need to hear
Mhm.
because they think like this has to take like 3 years until you feel happy with not exercising. But you're showing like, listen, and everyone's journey is different and don't feel bad if it takes you a little bit longer to work through that. But I think it's important to see that like if you truly surrender into it, that happiness can be found pretty quickly. We usually don't get to that place of happiness with like say taking the gym out and being more still when we're still resisting it. But when you make like Ivy correctly said of like you make that big step of I'm just going to do it, like I'm just
Yeah.
gonna stop exercising, then you can really sink into and embrace your life. And so I think it's really beautiful that in such a short amount of time, you're already seeing a lot of like the positive benefits.
Yeah.
And I remember feeling the same way. I remember being like, oh, wow, actually, I like not waking up at 4 to go running. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and like my school like starts later this year than it used to, and I remember thinking before the school year like, "Oh, perfect. Then I can like wake up early and go to the gym before school." But now I literally just like set my alarm like super late, like 8, and I sleep in and it's like literally so nice and it's just like giving my body a lot of time to rest and recover. And like I was saying, I like hang out with more friends now cuz I'm not just like conform to my little bubble of what I have to do, what I have to eat, what I have to exercise. Like it's just more like life, you know?
What else happened for you in this recovery process? So, do you mind sharing a little bit more of maybe a little bit more of the food side, the body image side?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, for sure, like when I first started, I was like really, really scared. I was really scared because I was like, there's no way I'm gonna gain weight. Like, there's no way. Like, maybe like 5 pounds I'd be okay with. Like, I've been that weight before, but like anything over like 10 pounds, like, oh, that's just not happening. But then I started, like, I've been trying to eat like snacks, meals, etc. Like, I've been eating good. I just had some avocado toast with egg for lunch. It was so good.
Yep.
But after like it started happening kind of fast, but like not in a bad way at all. But even like my parents were kind of like, Ivy, like you look a lot healthier, but they weren't even saying it in like a bad way. They were like genuinely like, you look like really good. And I
Okay,
was
and
like, oh,
how did that comment impact you? Because I know for a lot of girls, that comment is actually a big
see?
trigger.
And that's,
I
yeah.
never fully experienced that myself. I mean, obviously, I understand it now as a coach, but like, I'm wondering, like, most people when they hear that, like, oh, you look healthy now, they tighten
So
up. So how did
kind of that was almost like a journey on its own, because I remember the first time my like dad said that to me, I was kind of like I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I didn't really feel that way myself yet, and I was like, the way that he like noticed like kind of like got to me a little bit. Like, I don't know, I was kind of overthinking it, and I actually like I had like one moment where this was like early on when I started gaining weight, where I kind of just like started crying, and I was like talking to my dad, and I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, I'm scared to gain any more weight. I just don't like it. And he was like, my dad, I have a really good relationship with him, and I'm super thankful for that. But he was like talking to me, and he was like, I promise you, like, you look so much better. I promise you. And just like keep doing what you're doing. Like, you're doing great, and just like a lot of words of encouragement, which was really nice. And I was like, okay, like I said, I just have to give this my all, because if I like, go through with this like halfway, it's not going to work. So I'm just like, I'm going to keep pushing through it. I don't care. I'm just going to keep going. And then as I started to even gain more weight, I just like I this is like kind of TMI, but like I'm like my boobs came back, my butt came back, and I was like, wait, like, okay, this is, yeah, like this is kind of good. And like I also have some really supportive friends that I've like talked to about this, and they're like, yes, like go Ivy. And like I guess over time, and it's just like been happening to me, like as it goes on as a process, it's not as drastic as you think it'd be. And I'm like up over literally like 10 pounds from when I started. And keep in mind, this was like from literally like 2 months ago. And like I feel fine. I feel better about myself. Like, I can actually like breathe, I feel like. And I've been able to like enjoy my food, enjoy, I mean, I haven't really been exercising, but I just went on like a little walkathon for my mom's work, and it wasn't anything like crazy. It was just very like relaxing and everything. So I guess like as time has just gone on, like you learn to be like, oh, like this is good. Like, this is good, you
so
know?
Ivy, have you ever walked into a room and someone's like in a bad mood and you can tell and it kind of like you can feel it in the air?
Yeah.
So I think we all understand that like we pick up on emotions. Like people are constantly emanating energy and frequencies and we pick up on it. And so that frequency of restriction is a really big one. And people can pick up on that. And so for anyone who gets triggered by this comment of like, you look more healthy, I really just want to like peel that back and help you understand that that's not even just a like you look healthy as in like I visibly see that your body size and shape has changed. No, a lot of the times what people are picking up on and what they're more referring to is your energy is now more radiant.
Mhm.
Like you
Yeah.
seem more free, you seem more open, more abundant. Like my parents, my whole family, they have no idea like what weight I went to what weight. Like they were never like
Yeah.
watching me
Yeah.
on the scale, right? They have no idea what was happening. Like obviously it started becoming apparent that my body size and shape was
Yeah.
changing. But the first compliments that I really truly got was like, you're smiling again. you are happy, you feel a lot more at ease, you're not like anxious anymore. Like it was all these more energetical things. And so what your dad is really saying when he says like, no, you look so healthy, is you are finally emanating radiance and abundance and light. And that's beautiful for me as another human being to see that you have, you know, you're getting out of that dark place that you were in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at that point, when like your dad says something like that, or whether it's a best friend or a mom or an aunt or whoever it is, it's like, who are we going to trust? The eating disorder that we created, like maybe what, 2, maybe 5, maybe 10 years. It depends on how long you've been in it. But, you know, this thing that we've created, are we going to trust that? Or are we going to trust the person that literally, like your dad, put a roof over your head,
Mm-hmm.
provides for you, you know, has a car that he can drive you to school in and does all these things, you know what I mean? It's like changed your diapers when you're a baby, like sacrifice time at work, like your parents love you, they sacrificed for you. Are we really going to not trust what they say when it comes to
Right.
you're looking better, continue doing what you're doing? Like it's the eating disorder that we should like be questioning, right? When it says something like, oh, you're not skinny enough, we should be like, what? Like, what is that? Like, really? Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So you eventually found the course, the Get Your Phone course, which is my signature course that I go through this whole process. And I feel like I go through it in like a different way, would you say, than like most people? I feel like it was kind of a different approach, yet like hit on the key things everyone needed to know.
Right, right.
I would love to just like hear your experience of like finally making that decision, because I know a lot of girls are really hesitant about getting support and reaching out, and you are excited. You're like, yes, I want to do this. Let's go. And I love people like that, because I'm like, yeah, you're gonna in a very short amount of time get to a good place, because I'm giving you all the tools and information to do that. So what was the thing that kind of led you to reach out, and then how was that whole experience of joining the course?
Yeah, so I guess I had a recent doctor appointment with a more like holistic nutritionist, and he I thought was going to be the one to like solve my problem, but I ended up getting like the same answer of, oh, it'll fix itself over time. And I remember like crying and being like, there's no way this is what's going on. So and I've already kind of like followed a few of the like accounts on Instagram that like deal with this sort of issue, and yours being one of them. And I was like, okay, like I just have to face the facts. This is what it is, and I need serious help about it. So obviously your page really appealed to me, looked like super like friendly. I was like, oh, this girl seems so nice. So obviously I reached out in your DMs because I wanted someone else's insight on like what's going on, because and I was almost a little hesitant too, because I don't know how my parents would feel about me like paying for a course. I didn't know if they'd be like, oh, like you can do this on your own. But when I like told them about it, they were actually extremely supportive, which I wasn't quite expecting. But after I talked to you, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is gonna be great. Like this is like the one thing that I haven't tried that I really think has to be the root cause. And if I can get support doing it, then I really think that'll help.
Yeah,
So
then you have like a fighting chance to like get through it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I love that your parents were really supportive
they
about
were.
that. And
Yeah.
that's so key. And I feel like we're finally coming into an age, right, where it's like there's not the stigma about like getting therapy or about like, you know, getting help anymore. There used to be, I feel like when our parents were young, there used to be such a stigma about that. Like, you don't go to therapy, you don't get a coach, you don't like, you know what I mean? It was very like, oh, you can figure that out on your own. But I think our generation really understands the value of just expediting your journey via getting mentorship.
Right. Yeah.
Like tools to help process through this. So yeah, you were really excited. I remember that you joined in like a day. And then what was your experience with like going through all of the modules? And I'm curious if you have a favorite module that you remember.
Oh, that's hard. Yeah. So I really liked all the modules is what I have to say to begin with. Like they're really easy to follow. They had like really good key points. I feel like I had I had like a couple favorite videos too. Like I really liked the video. There was one that like compared your menstrual cycle to like the seasons, and I thought that was so interesting. So
Yeah.
like video wise, that was probably my favorite. I really like the food course because like watching about like the nutrient dense foods and all that. Like I made my parents like do this whole grocery haul of like all this stuff. Like I have like orange juice for breakfast every day. Like so good. So I definitely really like that module, and I also like the like feminine and masculine energy module. That was a really good one. And yeah, so I guess those were my favorite, but overall, like the course, like I felt like it was in a really nice order that kind of like took you through all the steps like as you were going. So that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I love, so you're talking about, I did a whole lesson on the seasons of our cycle. And I really wanted to put that in there because I'm like, this isn't just get your period back and then not understand again that lack of mentorship, like not understand your body, how it works, how powerful it is, and understanding the different phases of your cycle and kind of what it's asking from us. If it's asking for us to be, yeah, this one you can be loud and out there and put yourself in, like these are the times where you should really cocoon, and like it's important to understand that because that cycle is like divinely created so that we avoid burnout. Like we can't just go 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 go. When we do, our hormones get all screwed up. But our hormones kind of train us to like and come back and slow and integrate all that work that you just had out there, and then go back out and then integrate. And it can be a subtle thing. It's not like you're literally hiding in your home during your menstrual cycle or during
Mhm.
the teal phase, but
Yeah.
it's the subtle energy of like, wow, yes, I am feeling slow right now. I don't need to push myself to just wake up and go to the gym. I'm about to get my period. I just want to like have chocolate pancakes for breakfast and just like take it slow. And learning how to honor those seasons, I feel like is the best way to go about life because then you're not fighting against life. I feel like it's kind of like it would kind of be like trying to fight gravity, where I'm like, good luck, you're gonna be fighting your whole life. Gravity is here, like it exists. Like
Yeah.
you're gonna fight against it. It's the same with like your hormones and your natural cycle. Like, okay,
Mhm.
you can do that, but you do realize you're gonna be fighting this whole time. Yeah. So that was a really fun module. And I
Mhm.
love that you got excited about the food module. There was a couple different lessons. There was like heal your relationship with food,
Mhm.
which helped you like understand food in a different light.
Yeah.
But I did want to put in that module of like, here are the specific foods that are like, these are foods that your body's craving and needing to help you get your cycle back faster. And I'm glad you got excited about that of like,
Mhm.
wow, yeah, if I just start like actually buttering my toast, that can
Mhm.
help my hormones out. Like, yes, let's get
Yeah.
excited about the fact that there is cholesterol in there because my hormones are made out of cholesterol. So yeah, I wanted to put that in there. So I'm glad you liked that.
Yeah, like you're even in your module, you were like, oh, like eggs are like one of the best like recovery foods. And I literally eat like 4 a day now. Like I have like two for breakfast, two for lunch. Like so
Yes, yes, so good. Like literally so good. So I hope it kind of like knocked traditional, or not traditional, I should say, knocked trendy diet advice kind of aside and helped you see like,
and like part of one thing that I feel like could have predisposed me to this. I know you're very like big advocate for meat eating, and I grew up 11 years vegetarian. And I think that could have like
mm,
definitely been part of like what predisposed me to it as well.
oh, interesting. Yeah, definitely. Is your family still vegetarian?
No, and it's funny because they probably eat like a little more like red meat than I do because they like used to eat meat, and then like when I was born we were vegetarian for like 10 years, and then it was kind of hard for me to get like into it since I grew up not eating meat. And I like have been eating a lot of like white meat, but it's been hard for me to kind of like introduce like red meat to myself. Like I discovered in like May I had a B12 deficiency, so I've tried to like eat more like red meat since then, but definitely did not used to.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And a lot of people are now being raised in these households where like diet culture is present or just certain diet philosophies, right? And interesting that your family eventually left. And I think that's
Yeah, yeah.
it with the research of like, I think it's upwards of 80, maybe no, I think veganism is 95. I think vegetarianism, obviously, it's a little bit lower, but it's somewhere in the 80s to 90s of like people who are vegetarian and going back. It's like, sounds like there's a reason, and your body showing you that clear sign of like, look, you're low in B12. Eh, What has the most B12? liver, red meat, like those type of things. So it's like, yeah, getting out of that like philosophy that you grew up in and being like, okay, how can I learn how to appreciate this food for what it is, what it can do for me? So I love that you're adding it back in. Continue to add it back in. Like it is your medicine at this point. Like it really, really is. And I know you're still awaiting your period back. And so that definitely will be something that will help like push it forward as well. And again, that's the cool point. And I think, and let me know if you've like had this kind of shift too. I know my shift went from like thinking that food was here just to impact my weight to food is here to improve my health.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's such a different perspective, right? When you all of a sudden like, oh, I'm not thinking about like, oh, well, I can't have red meat because it's too many calories. I'm thinking about red meat's gonna make my hair grow, red meat's gonna get my period back, and like all these good things I want. Like the weight
Yeah.
really ends up getting just pushed down on the list of priorities of me worrying about that, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So what would you say has been like the biggest kind of aha moment that you've had in this whole journey of finally learning all this information that you learned in the course and like going through this whole process? Like what was the big aha moment?
Um, I feel like it's honestly been like recently, like just kind of like sitting down and taking a moment to like just like look at myself and my growth as a person and through my body, and I've just been kind of like, oh, like I did it and it's fine, you know? Like kind of just like once you do it and you've had like effects from it and you're just like, this is not as bad as I thought it would be at all. I like I was saying, like I don't even crave the foods that I used to think I liked. Like I used to think I would like salads with grilled chicken whenever I would go out to eat, and like all these like protein bars that were kind of like gross, but I'd be like, these are so good. No, they're really not. Like now I have like a whole different food palette that I'd rather be eating from. That's like I eat ice cream like so like 3 times a week, maybe more. Like and
Yeah.
I'm fine, like, So I guess just after, like I said, once you do it and you just like realize nothing happened, you're just like, oh, this is good.
Well,
Keep
I
going.
wouldn't say though that nothing happened, right? It
Well,
sounds
nothing, that's not what I mean. I mean like nothing bad happened.
nothing
Yeah.
bad happened. But
Yeah.
that's the whole thing. It's like we block ourselves short from even seeing that it's good stuff that's
Mhm,
happening.
mhm.
Like being someone who you said, you're spending more time like hanging out with friends and stuff instead of just like working out and stuff after school. That's beautiful. That's a huge improvement. That's so important for your
Mhm,
health and your well-being is to like have fun, be a kid. Even if
mhm.
you're 50 years old, be a kid, like go out, have fun, do things with your friends. Like that is such an important aspect of health that we don't address so
Yeah.
much. So I am curious to know, as someone who like I obviously spent time like creating what I have created, the recovery community, the course and all that. I'm always interested in knowing like how much of a like kind of event that was in someone's recovery. Like, do you feel like saying yes to that and signing up and being like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to figure this out? Do you feel like that was kind of a change, like a momentous, like, yes, that's right, I'm doing this, we're going for it?
For sure, for sure. And I feel like the community is so good because they're actually like active members. Like you say something in there and they all respond in like 2 seconds. Like it's so nice. And I feel like having the course and the community was just like a really good like combination to have like when going through this process for sure.
Yeah, I love that. Um, sorry, something just popped up on my computer. I had to move it up. I love that dynamic of like, here's all the information, like just good information to understand. Let's go through diet culture, all that. But I think that the most beautiful aspect for me is the community and like how cool it is to talk with all these girls who are in the same spot as like everyone else, and they're just simply trying to get to this place of peace in their body, peace with food, go back to monthly menstrual cycles. And like, yeah, I think it's like this power in numbers.
Yeah.
And I am glad and happy to hear that that was kind of an event for you that like really kind of tipped it over. Cause I know so many people, they're like, on Monday, I'm going to start. on next Tuesday I'm gonna start. Oh, and maybe I'll do it next weekend. Oh, there's this, maybe I'll wait. And I think like investing in something, like paying for something and being like, I'm gonna be a part of this, makes you
Yeah,
want to be like,
exactly.
and now I am actually
Yeah,
going.
hold you accountable for sure.
Totally does. I remember when I used to coach, and this was back in the beginning in like 2018. And like I would charge someone like $20 an hour to like work with me. And then I'd meet with them the next week. How did this go? Did you do this? And they're like, oh no, I forgot. I'm like, okay, well, let's do it again this week. And then I'll meet with them the next week. And how did this go? Oh no, yeah, I really didn't get to that. I'm like, okay, now that I charge a price that is more the value of the session than what we're giving, people actually, they're like, oh my gosh, wait, I just paid to have this session. Like, I gotta do what Chloe says.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's what gets people to be motivated. We're motivated by money. You guys get in the game and it's like, yeah, we're gonna do it. Yeah, of course we're gonna do it. Like the girls in the group, they're like, hey, I just paid to be a part of this. I'm gonna actually be a part of this and like literally soak up everything I can from this. And I think that's it. Yeah, it adds that element of like, I'm serious about this. And that's why I love it when people come into my DMs and they're like, hey, I'm ready. How do I work with you? And I'm like, great, yeah, here are the like 2 big ways that I have to work with me right now.
Yeah.
Let's decide which one's best for you. I'm like, I love that energy because it's like, again, that's gonna be what allows you to heal.
Exactly.
So any just last kind of words of advice for anyone or any part of your story that you want to share with us that you think would be beneficial for others?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like for girls to just realize like you're meant to grow up. Like you're not meant to be how you were forever as a child. And recovery really, once you start it, like it's so much like more good than there is negative. Like you might feel like a little scared at first, like I did, but once you do it, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is just so much better than how I was living before, you know? And I just feel like going through with it and discovering what life has to offer again is just so much better than any tiny body could be. So that's all I have to share on
That was like prime advice right there.
that. Thank
I think
you.
a lot of people needed to hear that. Yeah, it's like we have to grow up, and a lot of us try and keeping these smaller bodies to kind of signify almost of like, I'm still a kid, I'm still like, take care of me, don't you know what I mean? Instead of like, I'm a woman, I can take care of myself. Not that we don't allow other people to help us and support us, but like I trust that like I know how to do this thing called life is really what it is.
Yeah.
And you grow up into that. And yeah, I know a lot of, I've met with clients who are literally like 50 years old and they're still talking about the weight they were when they were 14. I just want to get back to that weight. I just want to get back to that weight. I'm like, when you were 14, like, honey, you're 50 years old now. You're not 14 years old. Like, time to grow, time to grow.
For sure.
Well, I absolutely loved this conversation. Like, thank you so much for like hopping in. And yeah, just so glad that you joined the course. I'm excited for you to get your berry bag. Like,
Me too.
Okay, that is it all. That's it for today's podcast. Sorry, like can't speak. That is it for today's podcast. Thank you guys for listening. And I'll see you in the next one.